Don't go cheap on these 5 items of your renovation project, because it really could cost you thousands down the line, and the last one's a big one. So you want to look for a trusted building surveyor. They will check, your property's integrity. So they will check for, like subsidence or, the masonry condition. Check the roof structure, make sure that's sound. So obviously the last thing you want to do is spend, thousands on a new interior if there's leaks. Second, you really want to be looking at the M&E, so that's the mechanical and electrical. It might want fully updating. If it's pre sort of 80s, 90s, it's probably is going to want renewing. Now would be the time, if you've got ceilings down, carpets up, now's the time to do the upgrade. It'd be well worth it in the end. Last thing you want to do, again, is, spend thousands and then you find that there's issues later down the line if you've got to do a fuse box change or upgrade the pipe work. So, and not only that, you can future-proof it. So a good free tip here would be, if you are going to extend, further down the line, now's the time. If you're doing an upgrade, put them extra cables in, put the extra pipe work in, and again, that's going to save you an awful lot of money. When you do a knock through, when you do an extension, the cables, pipes, are already up there, they're all waiting just to connect on. The next one would be, find a really good architect or an interior architect or an interior designer. These guys really will maximize the space that you've got. If you're doing an alteration, if you're doing an extension, they will obviously take you through all the planning process, all your building regulations, and they really will maximize the true potential of what you're trying to achieve. Getting a good structural engineer on board is absolutely critical. I've seen some real horrors, where guys have missed, pad stones, undersized their steels. As you can imagine, this will cause catastrophic, failures. So don't go cheap on these consultants. And the last one is the builder. A cheap quote is not always going to be your best option. They're going to miss items. They're going to, they're not going to plan properly. Do your due diligence, do your research, find the right contractor, do the vetting, check reviews, speak to people, loads of different groups, because a good builder, they're going to highlight any issues. They're going to show you the red flags very early on. They're going to highlight the points that you need to consider. Even within the program, some of the items that you're going to need, your bathroom fittings, some of the kitchen items, appliances, there could be long lead times. A good contractor will pick this up early, and input it into a sensible program. This is going to give you, something that you can all work on. Any issues down the line, everyone needs to know where they are. So it's well worth taking a bit of time to choose the right builder. So follow for more free tips on your renovations. I'll see you soon.